Caravanserai of the Silk Road, the holiday inns of the past. In 1975, I took 6 months to travel overland from Canada to work in Australia. Part of the trip was from London to Kathmandu in a big truck. Traveling with Exodus expeditions involved camping every night, and when we traveled through sections of Turkey, Iran, and Afghanistan, we would frequently stop at abandoned caravansarai to pitch our tents. Frequently, the caravansarai were the only landmarks on a barren landscape, as shown in this photo. Caravansarai were established probably in the 11th and 12th century and used for centuries thereafter as protection for traders traveling from China to the west. A particularly interesting part of my trip was from Isfahan through Persepolis across the great sandy desert of Iran to Yazd and Mashhad, then over to Afghanistan. Here we saw a number of caravansarai. Caravansarai were roadside inns spaced about a day's camel trip apart. They provided security for merchants traveling overland. They usually consisted of a large walled enclosure with a single large gate and an open courtyard inside to protect the sheep and camels safely. There were a number of identical enclosures around the inside of the courtyard, which would be provided to the merchants and their servants to store the merchandise and animals for the night. I must admit, I first became aware of the word caravansarai in 1972 with the Santana long play record called Caravansarai. There are numerous books that refer to Caravansarai, including Mirrors of the Unseen, Journals in Iran by Jason Elliott. Also, of course, there's lots of information about Caravansarai in books on Islamic architecture and Islamic hotel design. The locations of Caravansarai are now being carefully plotted with GPS settings, and their network illustrates the trade routes from the 12th century onward. This drawing shows the structure of a caravansarai. The better ones were 2 stories, with the merchants staying upstairs and storing their goods downstairs. There was always a bathing and water area in the courtyard for feeding the animals, and quite often a small mosque was located there as well. This 19th century British engraving illustrates quite an upmarket caravansarai for the time. Notice the water cistern in the center of the courtyard and the 2 stories. A British drawing showing a caravanserai in use with all the merchants, their animals, and socialization. Yet another sketch of a caravanserai, this time a single-story one, which seemed to be a lot more common. With modern-day roads, railways, and trucks, there's not much need for a caravanserai to house the camels. Consequently, most of them are falling into disrepair. Not much point keeping them up. This is a 1925 photograph, and even then the caravanserai was falling to pieces. Often a few crumbling bricks are all that remains. An Afghan caravanserai, not much remains. Although abandoned, this one is still in fairly good condition. We camped for the night in an abandoned caravanserai near yachts. Another night, another empty caravanserai, and we even parked the truck inside. Yet another camping and another ruin. Surprisingly, sometimes caravanserai are in fairly good shape, even though they're not actively used. Look at this one. Of course, caravanserai were constructed in different ways. This one in Turkey was constructed from stone and is much more durable than the softer brick. Once again, stone in construction. A caravanserai in Cappadocia, Turkey. I did not see caravanserai this well constructed in Iran or Afghanistan. A very well constructed caravanserai, and here we have a mosque in the central courtyard. A Turkish caravanserai. They do seem to be much better built than the Iranian ones. I didn't actually see very many two-story caravanserai. Here's a panoramic shot showing the interior courtyard. In this courtyard, you can make out the central watering hole for the animals. Another very well constructed two-story caravanserai. The two-story caravanserai had very steep steps. In some cases, caravanserai are used today for a variety of purposes, from storage to tourist attractions to even modern hotels. Let's have a look. This caravanserai has been integrated into a little Iranian village. This caravanserai was empty, but the village was right next door. Those stones are actually grave markers. Recent signs of civilization around this caravanserai, with the mosque of the city in the background. This Miandasset caravanserai, located on the Silk Road, is being renewed and refurbished as a tourist accommodation, including a hotel and a cultural center. Signs on this caravanserai that it's still in use. Next we'll see air conditioning on the roof. Some caravanserai have become ultra-modern luxury hotels. A prime example is the Abbasi Hotel in Isfahan. Converted to 1960, it is now a five-star hotel with beautiful gardens. The central courtyard is still apparent. Thanks, viewer, for joining me on this brief trip to Caravanserai of the Silk Road. Have a good day.